stage our speakers for the session. The session is being moderated by Mr. Prashant Agarwal, Joint Managing Director of Wazir Advisors. Many of us have met Prashant in one event or the other because he has been a speaker at various national and international textile apparel conferences, and he's a guest faculty with IIT Delhi, IIM Ahmedabad. He was also on the board of some of the most successful textile parks promoted by Textile Ministry and Japan-India Fashion Forum. May I also call upon stage Mr. Udeep Singh Charat, President and CEO, Sutlej Textile Industries Limited. Shri Udeep Singh Charat is the President of Sutlej Textile Industries. He is having strategic business management professional, having PLN and board level experience, and has been successful at building high performance executive teams, having collaborative mindset with 35 years of global experience in operations, global HR, marketing, sourcing, and distribution. The third participant in our panel is Dr. Siddharth Rajgopal, the Executive Director of the Cotton Textiles Export Promotion Council. Dr. Rajgopal brings with him vast experience over 3 decades, especially in matters related to international trade in textiles and clothing. He joined Textile in 1992 and has the unique distinction of serving the entire gamut of the textile value chain from yarns to apparel, given his prior experience in the Apparel Export Promotion Council. Dr. Rajgopal has been instrumental in conceiving export promotion schemes and market development strategies for the garment and textile sector, and has organized several international fairs and trade delegations.
Hello, let me start the proceedings because we are already delayed and a lot of people have flights to catch. And good that I am missing some of my speakers in my panel because now we will take shorter time. But it's a very important topic when we are talking about free trade agreements, because as Minister is himself deeply involved in that. When free trade agreements happen, it's a give and take. Earlier it was protectionism, but now it's free trade agreements. And free trade agreements means you give some and you take some. So normally as an industry, we always think about if things open up, we'll only get it. And I have been part of some of those discussions where even when we were in Japan, they always asked us, okay, you want us to come and invest in your country, what we are going to get in return. So for that, we did a roadshow in India for fabrics made in Japan. And they were very high-end fabrics. We called all designers, everyone, to see that what Japanese make can be sold, and India is such a vast country. Even if we are able to sell to few 0.2-0.3% of people or companies, it will make a lot of impact for Japanese fabrics. So I think that's why people are ready and open for discussions on free trade agreements, because they know India is a vast market. While it will be, once the FTAs are done, it will be a two-way trade. And with this, I think free trade agreements going forward, India has to keep its mind open, because I have seen when these free trade agreements with UK is under discussion, and sometimes questions comes to associations. Should we make it free? What should we do about it? And the questions comes to us also as a consultant. Can you answer this? And we always say that if it is smaller things, you should give up. It's not that you should keep everything close to your heart, that we don't give up anything and we always want to take everything. So the answers which goes from associations where they say, no, if you open up this, it will impact our industry. But I think that's what Minister emphasized, and he time and again said that when FTA happens, it's a two-way agreement. It's not a one-way agreement. So you have to be open about what you are going to give and how much you are going to, it's not quantified. You can always take more than what you give. but you should be prepared for that. That's a very important aspect. So to take these deliberations forward, I think with me, Mr. Updeep Singh, who is the President and CEO of Untitled Textiles, and most of the people who are here knows him very well. He has been part of this industry for almost more than 3 decades, and he has worked in India globally from spinning, fabrics, home textiles, so everything. So from machinery sales also. I think with this kind of vast experience, we would like him to share some of his experiences in terms of if India gets into FTA, what kind of strategy they should follow to get the maximum return of what we have done. And Mr. Rajgopal, I have seen him for last so many years, and being executive director of Texprosil, and he has been part of all global trade associations, meetings, exhibitions, and he has so much vast knowledge about what's happening globally. I think his insight will also be very useful. Before we start this, I have few slides which will set the context in terms of where do we stand in terms of whatever the agreements we have done, and not only in India, what agreements other countries have done and what kind of advantage. So because it's not that most of the trade happens through agreements. You will find in my presentation that trade happens without agreements also. Are you prepared is a key question. So let me take you 4 or 5 slides and then we'll start our discussion. So, hello? It's audible, right? So while this panel was planned, so I requested my team to put together certain slides in terms of where do we stand in what kind of major FTAs we have done. So let's talk about major FTAs of EU impacting textile and apparel trade. EU has one of the major is GSP, EBA, anything but arms treaty. 5th March 2001, where Bangladesh, Cambodia, Ethiopia and others were involved. 47 developed LDCs were there. It gave a status of zero duty. Instead of 12% duty, which is across Europe, 12% duty in all commodities, all textile and apparel commodities is there. EU textile and apparel imports from benefiting countries $22.7 billion. So total imports of EU is $125 billion, out of which $22.7 billion is with the countries which have FTAs, and out of this $22.7 billion, Bangladesh has 17.4. So if you see from the context, when Bangladesh had this advantage of EBA, at that time they had one, zero duty, second, their labor cost was really low. So people thought, and the country also decided as Bangladesh, that let's get into manufacturing in a big way, and which attracted manufacturers, investors globally, not only from Bangladesh, in Bangladesh, and then it took advantage by being $17.4 billion to Europe itself. And GSP Plus, where Pakistan and 7 other countries, post-quota from 1st July 2005, they got this advantage, zero duty instead of 12%, and actually it benefited Pakistan and Sri Lanka a lot from that, where almost $6 billion imports increase, which happened because of that. Then EU-Vietnam, which is recently signed, but it has a time frame of almost 6 years. Over a period of 6 years, they will reduce their duties. It's not that suddenly duties have become zero. So again, this today in most of the product categories from 12% it is moved to 6%. So a trade which is at present EU-Vietnam is $4 billion, which is expected to increase as we move forward because a lot of investment has already happened in Vietnam. So, and GSP India has 20% advantage. So in terms GSP, where we have instead of 12% we pay 9.6% duty, and this is where we are talking about whether with EU or with UK, if we have duty advantage, this through FTA it becomes zero, then we can leapfrog in that area. And important point here is countries with zero duty benefit constitute 30% of import share in Europe, and China alone is 33%. So the key is very important that we will deliberate. It's not only FTA which will take you, suddenly your share will improve from 5 to 7% to 15, 20, 30%. You have to do much more to be able to really take advantage of FTA, and that's what Minister Sir was also pointing out, that we are deliberating so much, we will do those FTAs, but are we really prepared to take advantage of FTA? Because if we don't take the advantage of FTA, then all the work done comes to a naught. Then same with USA. USA imports almost $114 billion, and those with FTAs, like US has CAFTA, AGOA, USMCA, JOFTA, CORUS. So all of these FTAs together, they have only 20% import share. And these FTAs are only with nearby countries. When it comes to US, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, nobody has, China, Vietnam, nobody has any advantage in terms of duty. Duty is same for US. So US with such a large market, only less number of countries have this advantage. And China has 27% share, Vietnam has 13.5, India has 8.5, Bangladesh has 6.5 to US, and this is without FTAs, right? So I'm not saying FTAs are not important, but I think you need to have a balance of the two. Major countries whom India has FTAs, there are almost 15, 16 FTAs and we have signed, but major countries are Japan. We signed in 15 February 2011. Duties 10.9 is zero now. Textile and apparel imports is 33.3 billion for Japan, while India is 400 million only. So are we able to take advantage of FTA, which was signed almost 10 years back, 12 years back? So that's the deliberation. I think the key to this deliberation is not that as we are after ministers and everybody that let's sign the FTAs fast. But once we have signed the FTA, what is the advantage? I think my panelists will deliberate on this aspect, where we have with UAE, they have $10.7 billion imports. We have just signed it. This 2.7, we already have a base. So this base should increase going forward. With South Korea, we signed it, $17 billion imports. It's only $400 million exports from India. Australia, it has $11.6 billion imports. 5% duty now becomes zero. We have only 600 million. So can we target already signed FTAs? What is the strategy? What is the strategy we should follow to really take advantage of these FTAs is what we have to see. So opportunity for India, just a number in terms of considering China has 25% share, and if India at least get 15% market share of these countries from which we are in process of discussion of signing FTA, for example, with UK, global TNA trade is $29 billion, apparel is $21 billion, India's trade is 1.7. If we move to 15%, it will go to $4.3 billion, a $2.6 billion change. If EU agreements get signed, with 15% share, we can move to 11.5. I think something between 15 to $20 billion we can target by signing these FTAs. But the key, again, I am putting these numbers and things in perspective so that you know what we are talking about. We know if we have to really build an in-depth strategy, what are the numbers we are talking? We are at 15 to $16 billion exports. And more than that, we can achieve only by signing FTAs. I think with this, these are my brief. I will not, now I'll put the stage to my panelists to talk about what strategies that we should build to really capture this opportunity. Thank you.
So the conclusion is that irrespective of, even if you have FTAs, you won't be able to increase.
That's what it seems. And that's what I think, that's the deliberation. We have signed UAE, we have just signed Australia, Japan. So we have not done anything. $33 billion imports. It's not a, and they are a friendly country. So if suppose.
Other things have to be done. Just doing FTAs is not that.
Exactly. Absolutely. So I think before I speak about more, let me request Updeep ji. My question to you is, I have given some numbers, but is India prepared? What strategy we should follow? What is your experience of if we sign these further FTA with UK, we already signed with Australia, what should be done to really encash that opportunity?
Thank you, Prashant. And thanks, City, for giving me an opportunity to be here. And when you were in the last sessions, one good thing is per capita audience is more. Number two, only serious people are there. Number three, the participants or the panelists of the next session are here. So we have all good things. So I have to be serious again to answer this question. See, Prashant, what I feel is, and I have little experience of the other way around, I agree. So my experience is that these FTAs can be enablers. This cannot be a panacea for increasing the business. See, I have little experience of working in NAFTA, where in my previous assignment, we set up a factory in NAFTA in Mexico to service US market, but we could not succeed. So it is NAFTA, I mean, the agreement was there, everything was there, but we could not deliver. We could not satisfy the customers because of various geopolitical reasons or whatever, because of the local situation there in that country. In my opinion, signing an FTA with the countries, yes, it is one of the few steps which government can take. Because as you rightly said, as the Honorable Minister also said, it is give and take. One sector may try to take, but some sector has to, forego or, has to compete in this. So in my opinion, the question still remains, to get advantage of these FTAs, the industry needs to be competitive. Since morning we have been hearing about, and I remember Mr. Agarwal talked about two things. One, sorry, not Mr. Agarwal, Mr. Ravi. He talked about two things. Price, competitiveness. I think to take full advantage of this FTA, we need to go two steps ahead. One, I would say, customer obsession. Most of us have so far heard a word customer delight. In my opinion, now to take all the advantage, we go for customer obsession. And in very simple terms, it is ability to see and to serve the unserved needs of the customer. Up to serving the served needs already is a delight. You are competitive, you are giving good service, everything is good. But you have to imagine what he may need more to do his business. That is something which our industry needs to go. That is the first step. Second is innovation, as we have been talking about. Innovation has to be throughout. And that innovation can be in product, service, business model, and above all, to take advantage of these FTAs is a distribution network. So in my opinion, to take advantage, distribution network is another key. And the last is agility everywhere. We have seen what has happened in the disruption. So I would say agility to experiment. And if you fail, you give up. If you succeed, you scale up. This would be something which would be of great it will come handy to take advantage of this. As one of the speakers said, example of home textiles in India. Why home textiles could grow? Because they could scale up. They not only could serve the customer, but I was part of one of the companies of home textiles way back in 2005, when the company just started in a slogan of innovation, and they could anticipate the needs of the customer and their consumer. So that is why they could scale up. So in my opinion, these are a few things which still industry needs. FTA is not going to help in all these things. For a saving of 5% duty, 7% duty, customer, the basic things are required. Scale is required, service is required, agility is required. And to do all this, I think we have to address the issue of fragmented value chain. Up to now, I say these words, later on I come back to you on this.
But I have a follow-up question, Updeep. So I think you are right. So you are saying that as a country, you should be prepared anyway with FTA, without FTA, right?
Of course.
So we need to do a lot to prepare ourselves. But if we are signing an FTA, suppose we are planning to sign an FTA with UK this year itself, and what should be, as a country level, one is you leave the exporters, they should work on all the aspects that you are talking about. What is the strategy as a country? Can we work out something to see that we enhance our capabilities in those?
Yes, definitely yes, because we have to see, for example, what we are doing in our home textile division. We have targeted UK for this drapery and upholstery. And we have started this, of course, late, that what the customer would need. So we cannot take advantage of UK FTA on spinning or cotton export or anything except the made up in case of home textile or apparel. So we have to supplement all our efforts toward the engine, that is garment or made up. So as a country, we should look at that country as India, UK, that we have to service the made up industry. So we have to help our made up industry of here, I mean in India, apparel industry, garment in India, to serve these countries. So that is my point, that we have to integrate the value chain and help. So that is where industry leaders need to, come out with a solution. Otherwise, this FTA, I don't think this would be too helpful for our industry.
Right. No, I understood your point. I think what you are saying that at a company level, we have to plan our strategy. At a country level also, we should work on a mission mode approach kind of.
Exactly.
So suppose when we know that we have signed with Japan or we have signed with Australia, so how, whether we need to have mega parks built around that, or can we really understand what's the need? Those customers should be brought, shown the facilities, shown the policies, gave a kind of confidence to the investors so that they invest only to ensure that these buyers buy from them.
Exactly. If you look at parks, by having these mega parks, you reduce lead time of 15 to 17 days because you have all there. Now 15 to 17 days reduction in lead time in garment today means a lot. So these sort of steps industry need to take advantage of FTA. As I was talking to you a little earlier, it is icing on the cake. First we have to build the cake.
So we have to get the cake ready before thinking of what icing to put there. So with this, I think let me move to Rajagopalji. And Rajagopalji, with your experience of exports, and you have been promoting exports so much, and your experience with buyers as well as manufacturing is too high. So I think as a strategy, what do you think in terms of product to focus, countries to focus, when these FTAs are signed, what we as a country need to do? Should we focus on select countries or should we focus on select products and enhance our capability? What are your views on that?
Thank you very much for this opportunity today to speak on a subject which is engaging the attention of the government, as we saw the minister speak. In fact, on FTAs, on every forum, there is a belief in the government that they are creating access, but the industry doesn't seem to be prepared to take advantage of that access. And therefore, it's very, very important and crucial how you try and take access, because one must remember that from a time of quotas that we came, where there was restriction, now we are entering into an area where looking at duty-free access, because once quotas went away, the game was on tariffs, and now tariffs are also being phased out. And at least I must compliment the government that in the case of the UAE and Australia, they were able to take a 0 for 0 access. At least in UAE and in Australia, they were able to restrict our country from certain imports at the same time getting a 100% zero tariff export status in that country. So therefore, it is very important. That is number one. Number two, FTAs as they have played out. Why are they so much part of our thinking? Because we have seen live examples of countries taking advantage. The classic case is Bangladesh. There is enough anecdotal and evidence available on record to show that in low margin industries, and I consider the textile industry to be a low margin industry, though it may depend on time, but by and large, in low margin industries, tariffs play a crucial role. That is why we have seen it. I mean, whether it is yarns, whether it is fabric, of course, all that Updeep is saying and others are saying, the back end should be there that you take advantage. But FTA per se, what does it deliver to you? It delivers tariff in term concessions, because we cry horse that others have taken advantage. I'm not the same shirt or a trouser for which I pay 9.6%, and let's say Bangladesh and buyers from that pay zero. Well, there you are. There is obviously, somebody said about cost. Yes, it makes an impact. The buyers get diverted. We have n number of stories. And why are we going on again and again on every representative? Because it has a material impact. Having said that, what I would like to emphasize is the FTAs as we understood it. Earlier it was a derogation of the MFN, that is the most favored nation, that you will not discriminate. But now, in the era of deglobalization, FTAs or RTAs are par for the course. There are 354 RTAs which are there in the WTO report as on 31st of March 2021. Now, FTAs deliver tariff benefits. FTAs give you access to supply chains. FTAs also ensure that you try to source your raw materials in a reasonable way. FTAs are about investments. FTAs about movement of people. FTAs about our services. So FTAs has a very wide range of deliverables. Now here if you take, we have the experience, he showed a slide, a couple of slides. Now in that I would like to say that certain things which we have already done. 2 FTAs, if I have your permission. We have the Korea FTA, or whatever SIPA we call it, and we have the Japan. And every time the government comes back, I gave you zero access in Japan, what have you done about it? Frankly speaking, we haven't moved much. There are stories about Japan, well, quality, etc., etc., etc. All the points which Updeep made are valid in a duty-free zone or a duty-paid zone. But that is, of course, an internal matter which we need to attend to. But we have evidence to show that in Korea, we are at 2010 SIPA. Our share of cotton fabrics in the market in Korea was 0.8% in 2010. In 2021, I checked up, it is 16%. We fought Korea because we did not get access in yarn. We said we want zero in yarn. But they, because they wanted to have a trade-off, they said that you give me access in your man-made fiber, I'll give you access in your yarns. So yarns didn't come our way. I myself made a presentation before the then minister. And the minister was said, why are you making a public statement like this? But I made that presentation, told him at that time, we were very keen because the largest suppliers of yarn to Korea. Today you see your profile. You're not such a large, and you don't regret it because people are moved into fabrics. And it's again the duty, zero duty which helped you. You have a story about government always does that. Why should I promote raw material? I'll promote value add. I'll promote garments. So I've done a detailed analysis of your entire garment in all the FTAs that you handled so far. You see the profile. Why are you not growing with an FTA also? Because in Korea also they said, I want to promote my garments, I want to promote my home textiles. You take the first 3 items of imports in Korea of garment from the world. 2 of them are man-made fiber. The anoraks and jackets and all that, we are nowhere anywhere. If you see, it's a dismal percentage. The other one which moves very fast is T-shirts. T-shirts of cotton are moving right across. Even if you didn't give me duty-free access, my T-shirt will move because the data is there. But you come to other value-add products, you don't. Because FTAs are also about trade-offs. The Koreans tell you, you take access in chapter 52, but give me access in chapter 54. So therefore, that measure is on, and as the minister said, it's a two-way street. Because the time has now come, if we are going by what Updeep is saying, that it's an era where you have to really look in, you have to now realize it's got to be a two-way street. You will have to give access. Entire Southeast Asia is looking for access in man-made fiber. Half of our complaints on man-made fiber is coming because of imports from Southeast Asia. All the anti-dumping and whatever debate, discussion, conversations you're having is all because of that. Because that is very strong in that. But at the same time, there are realities in an FTA of linking in a supply chain. It's not so much about only my finished goods going. Because there is an art involved in the FTAs. That art has to be understood by companies, by countries. And this is what I'm seeing right across. Now, this is one aspect of it. You have to take Japan. Japan is a story of its own because Japan, obviously, there are very stringent requirements. We have had discussions with Uniqlo. Today, the minister or the secretary said that only 2 companies or 2 people in India are able to link up with Uniqlo. Why can't there be 20 people? Why can't there be people who can set up factories which can link? We're not able to do that. We checked up, capacity is not there, we don't have enough to produce, but fine. We did a study of some 30 companies and we got an information that 3 out of those 30s made 30% increase in their capacities in the garments. We're not talking of spinning and others. Forget about that because FTAs are now coming to be all about labor intensive. That's what the minister said. It's all about getting access in your finished goods in the value chain. You may benefit on the raw material side, on the intermediate side. But there again, Japan is an example. Okay, forget Japan. Japan is very typical. Now, if you have these 2 before you, which you have done, and you are struggling. So Korea, of course, is an example why garments didn't move. We saw that. Why is home textile moving in Korea? We've gone to Korea at least over a dozen times. Because the Korean sizes are different. The Korean manufacturing is different. The bed sizes are different. Their mattresses, their concept is different. You got to be part of that story. You're not, and there is no skin in the game because you already have, going for you in EU and USA and other markets. Why should I waste my time on Korea? But the fact remains that when you're doing these step by step, government is moving into Australia. The FTA has been done. What's happening there? FTA will be notified. If you see the profile, out of the 10 items traded, at least 6 are cotton. If you see your share between your share and Bangladesh's share, you are almost, near, you can hit them. And I have no doubt in my mind that once this FTA comes in, your garments, your made-ups, and you will beat the Bangladeshis in Australia. Because Australia Bangladesh had a head start. They had a head start in Canada. They had a head start in EU. They had a head start in UK. Because they all got the 9.6% advantage. So whether we like it or not, the tariff concessions for this particular sector, which is highly price sensitive and low margin in various terms, the tariffs are an important issue. So I have seen that, and we have seen that in the case of EU. I'll give you an example. EU, we are late, we are all trying to get it. Government is doing everything that it can, but EU is running into various issues. There are headwinds of various kinds. Some are in the public domain, some are not in the public domain. The point there is that you see Pakistan. Pakistan got 2014 a zero duty access. In the entire thing, GSP plus, not only in garments and made-ups, but even yarn and fabric. If you see 2014 figures and 2020 figures, Pakistan has grown by 8%. India did not have it between, India although has a higher base, India grew by 0.8%. So we've told the government, if you don't watch out, if you don't do your FTA quickly, by 2024, you will see the Pakistanis will overtake you even in an item like garments. They were never there in garments. They never have a story of garments. They were always about fiber, they were always about yarn, they were always about fabrics. But there you are, the data is there, and primarily because of this advantage of tariffs. So tariffs have become very important. We have seen ourselves grow in Korea. We will grow in Australia. We will see, I can go into these individual items, but there may not be time. But you will grow in Australia, you will grow in UK also. Because UK items, if you see, the cotton items are almost, the first 5 items are cotton items. And then cotton, whether we like it or not, we are very strong. MMF is the weak link in the basket. We are trying everything that we can to try and push it in the front. But for some reason, the cotton continues to dominate, even if they're in their own import profiles. Forget about India's exports. You take the top items imported into that country. Cotton figures in a distinctive manner. So the point is, there you are already there. Capacities you need to develop, product lines you need to develop. There has to be the resilience in the supply chain, which Dr. Schindler has been talking about. We are in an area where you will have to smartly, not only have smart factories, but in my view, have smart arrangements where you will benefit. So I will not sort of countenance the importance of it, because whatever you are trying to do, you will do. You take USA, with due respects, I don't think there will be an FTA with USA. India will not have one, because it is a difficult game, and the Americans are really not interested. So it is more a strategic approach for them rather than a economic issue. And there again, you will see the entire South America has been linked. Honduras, Guatemala, and you can name them, El Salvador, each of them, and they have got a Korean link. So there is a strategy involved in the FTAs. If a Vietnam does FTAs with 20 countries, there is a strategy involved. Vietnam exports to EU, you can use Korean fabric. Now if you analyze that, there will be, the supply chain has got linked. So it's not only about my goods going directly. I must smartly link myself in the group, in the region. So that is what the FTAs are about. And I'm quite optimistic that Australia will do well. UAE again is nothing but a story of garments. UAE also, we crashed. Our export profile, you see, last 5 years has come down. You will have the data with you. I have it with me. But now picking up the pieces. And the duty is right, is only 5%. 5%, as even the minister has said, I removed 5% duty in Australia or UAE. So what's the big deal? Why don't you manage? Even without the FTA, you should have been doing well. But therefore, that's where Mr. Updeep's point comes in. You will need to look at your product profile. You will need to look at the tariff arrangement, because it is international trade. You are in relation to others. You are not alone. So when you are in relation to others, what the others get has an impact on what you are able to offer, because it's very price sensitive. So these are my words. So I would like to say, as sort of a summing up, that all these FTAs are coming well in time. UK will be a boon, because a lot of people are looking for it, and we are strong players. The entire quota system started when Indian fabrics went to UK in 1975. So we have a very strong bond with UK. EU is a difficult game, which I'm sure will take some more time. But if you get it, you will definitely move. Otherwise, all the others than the fringe are moving very fast. So whether we like it or not, in front of your eyes, you see how Bangladesh has moved. 2008, 2009, 2010. Till 2008, India and Bangladesh were almost on par. I have the data up to 2021, how the Bangladesh took off after 2010. And is today almost 40 billion or $38 billion. Vietnam also moved in 2008, 2009. Vietnam, because of the lure of TPP. Now TPP offered you zero duty access into US. Who doesn't want a zero duty access into US? Your 32% is your tariff on man-made fiber garments. 6% or 8% is the tariff on your cotton. Now 32% tariff, who doesn't want it to bring it down to 8% or 6% or zero for that matter? Why do you think Vietnam had such a huge investment? So much of investment has gone into Vietnam. And Vietnam has now been able to come up in man-made fibers, because they realize that they will get that duty advantage and they will virtually beat almost all suppliers in the world. So therefore, it's an important element. Tariffs will be important. Going forward, your access will be determined by that. It's basically your access in relation to others. And hopefully with what the government is trying, and I think I really appreciate the minister and all the government officials keep talking to us. You will now have to get into that mood to get and leverage the FTAs. It's actually a responsibility, somewhere I've written, the trade industry. With due respect, I'm also part of it. The time has now come to look at it, each company, and strategize. And you will get it, because we have seen the results pay off in many areas. So this is my whole take on this. So it's a very positive development, and I really compliment the government for creating this access right across large markets, which we can all look forward to. Except perhaps the US, which in my own assessment may not.
It will take its own time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, Rajgopalji, you have given a really good insight into with all numbers. And I think what Updeep Singh ji said and what Rajgopalan ji said, Gopalji said, it has clarified a lot of things. While I'll sum up, because we have lack of time, but Updeep ji, you wanted to say something.
I just want to say one thing, that what Dr. Rajgopal said, we need to have a partnership with these countries where we are having FTAs to co-create the products. That should be the strategy. That what products can be co-created with these countries, under the chapters which are there in the FTA, and how can we service that?
Right.
So that is something that has to be a strategy as a country, not only as a company. That is my take on this.
No, I think Updeepji what he said, and I will say in the end, when we are suppose what Raj Gopalji said that Korea we signed an FTA. We were not making the products which Koreans are importing. So we signed FTA, we knew it's going to fail. Unless until we have drawn a blueprint saying that we have signed an FTA, if we are not able to make it, let's tie up with some Koreans. Koreans are investing worldwide. Koreans have invested in Vietnam also. Taiwanese have invested in Vietnam. Japanese have invested because before TPP. $10 billion worth of investment happened. $10 billion before TPP was signed and suddenly Trump pulled out. So, but because investment happened, their exports grew. So I think if the blueprint is, I cannot make it, what you said, product needs to be. So with every FTA, instead of signing FTA and clapping and patting all our back, we should see that what's my blueprint? Can I make those products? Should I develop parks for those products? Should I do joint ventures with those countries? And some companies in those countries, bring them here, give them red carpet to see that they invest, because I know that if they make it here, we can be exporting those. Can companies, individual companies be targeted for that? Can, at a country level we can have, because I think we have been seeing for long, honestly, like we are very good at doing road shows globally. We shake hands, we come back, and suddenly there is no follow-up. What's next? So was visit the purpose? Was FDA the purpose? Or was to increase our exports the purpose? I think what is missing is creating a real methodically worked out blueprint and actually following it up, creating teams. Even association should be held responsible that, okay, this is your target. This is how it will be followed up. I think no doubt about this, Rajagopalji, FTAs will be a big boon for us. It's a good opportunity for industry to enhance our exports, enhance our business, get better margins. Already China plus one we are talking about. With FTA, we'll have a lot of advantage. The only question mark is, are we prepared? Will we take the advantage for which we have done so much of hard work in negotiating, giving something, taking something? It's not one-way traffic. With this, I will thank my panelists and end my presentation, because a lot of people have to catch flight. And if I take more time, people will blame us, but it's a very interesting topic and discussion. Thanks, City, for allowing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, all the panelists. A lot of questions answered. A few still remain unanswered. Before we end the session, may I request Prashant to felicitate our two panelists. Mr. Updeep Singh, Satlaj Industries, thank you, sir. Dr. Siddharth Rajgopal, Executive Director, Cotton Textiles Export Promotion Council, thank you, sir. May I request Mr. Sunil Patwari ji to please come and felicitate Mr. Prashant Agarwal. नहीं उनको आ जाने दीजिए, आपको फेलिसिटेट तो कर दें। आ रहे सुनील पटवारी जी आ रहे हैं या साथ में देंगे? Thank you everybody.